expenditure, because they are like the main view that agriculture ride on. On this episode of the program, we'll be taking a look at government expenditure and its effects on agriculture. And I have with me on today's episode of the program Mr. Idakolo Gabriel, who will be taking us in details what the effect of government expenditure in agriculture has been over the years. Welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, sir, this episode will be taking a look, like I said, at the expenditure, government expenditure, and how it affects, of course, in agriculture. So far, we've seen government come out with policies. Last administration told us, give grants to farmers and the rest of it. All these expenditures, what do you think? How does it affect the agricultural sector?
Actually, if you look at the government's performance as regards agriculture in the past 15 to 20 years, you discover that government allocation vis-a-vis the budget, so the agricultural sector has not been what is expected to be. Averagely, the government is supposed to allocate between 10 to 15% of its budget to agriculture for us to have meaningful development in that area. And it is when we have meaningful development that investors will also be interested in key areas that the government has created. So over the years, we have seen government expenditure on agriculture through budgetary allocations fluctuating. The last administration tried as much as possible to increase it to between 4 to 5% thereabout, but it is yet not where it's supposed to be. And because of low budgetary allocations to agriculture, it has not really allowed the impact to be as it's supposed to be. And that is why we are seeing situations where more and more Nigerians are moving into poverty because we are not producing as much. You will discover that the rate of our population growth is not in conjunction with the rate of our food production. And that is why, one, there is poverty. 2, there is increased unemployment, and 3, you see most of our good hands trying to run out of the country for greener pastures. And you see that we even go to the extent of importing goods and agricultural products that essentially could have been produced in Nigeria, because we have not improved on branding, we have not improved on conversion rate, and things that are exported from us in crude form are brought back in refined products at exorbitant rates. So we see government intervention in agriculture through budgetary allocations has not been as encouraging as it should, so that it can be able to have groundbreaking measures to be able to attack the problems in the agricultural sector and be able to achieve quantitative results. But with the new government coming in, with the task ahead, like we said, that is enormous, the new government in this 2024-2025 fiscal year needs to improve on the budgetary allocation to agricultural sector. Even looking at what they have started doing by making grants available, hectares of land available, creating cattle ranches and the stuff to ensure that the agri sector is firmly on ground. So this new government needs to improve on budgetary allocations to the agri sector so as to be able to bring in or encourage more investors to come into the agri sector.
You talked about having our crude products being, taken away overseas and then brought back as finished products and properly packaged, and then we have to have the hike in prices and the rest of it. Yeah. Just in this light, the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, give a direction that the Ajaokuta still be revived.
Yeah.
We see that, yes, this is for the steel, industry and the rest of it. How can our own, finished, our own goods now can be transformed into finished products, in the sense that having, an industry that is going to, give birth to having this on ground?
Actually, in any organized industrialized country, steel production is very critical to economic growth. Because it is when we have adequate steel production that it can enable machineries to be produced, it can enable vehicles to be produced, it can enable even ammunitions to be produced, because a good component of these products we are talking about has to do with steel. So the inactivity of the steel sector over the years, especially the Agric Steel Complex, is a major problem, is a major disservice to the economic growth of this country. And because we have not been able to have adequacy in the steel production in the country, that is why we could not boast of machineries that will help to transform our agricultural sector. You will discover that when you import these machineries abroad, you are going to spend foreign currency, which Nigeria presently does not have, to be able to bring them. And when you bring them in at that cost, you are going to also spend a lot in the areas of logistics and setting up. So that is why most of the time some of the investors shy away from investing in machineries and brands that will be able to rebrand the crude export to finished goods. So, and that is where Nigeria needs to get to. I give you an example. If you are exporting cocoa, for example, and you are exporting the crude form and at a foreign standardized crude cocoa price of maybe $10 per badge, or how is it called? But that same badge that is crude, by the time it is refined and it is brought back, there is a profit margin of between 50 to 100% on that crude, on itself. Two, it also takes away a lot of foreign exchange from the country, because those that are importing the refined products need to use foreign currency to import them, which could have been retained in Nigeria if these machineries are produced in Nigeria, if we have all the necessary networks to be able to enhance the transformation of this our crude products to finished product before export. You can imagine if we have refined our crude crops like cocoa, sesame seed, cashew and the rest, and we are now exporting the finished products, the kind of foreign exchange that it will generate for the country. So that is why steel production is very critical to economic growth in any country. That's why you see industrialized countries like the United States, even China and the rest, or even emerging economies, are paying serious attention to steel production because they know that it will help to jumpstart every other sector of their economy.
Okay, what are the ripple effects if we have government expenditure going towards this line you have just told us?
Yes, definitely. If government expenditure is tailored towards ensuring that there is enough machineries and logistics in place to ensure that our agricultural products are refined, are rebranded, they ensure that they become finished products, it will in turn bring enough foreign exchange to the country through the export of those products. It will also increase employment in the economy. It will also increase expertise in the economy, and even other African countries can come to learn from the Nigerian experience. So that is why the government of Nigeria need to beam a searchlight on ensuring that agricultural products, in fact some of them you see in major agrarian communities, they go to waste because we do not have enough preservation methods or preservation techniques to keep those products. You can imagine when the season of tomato comes, for example, or mangoes, for example, you see that because of the high rate of perishability of these products, when they are not sold at a particular time frame, they go bad. But if we have machineries, we have industries that can absorb them even when they are on the verge of going bad and refine them to other products that are finished products, the country will gain enormously from it.
Okay, so what are the main items of that usually gain this expenditure of government? We know that most times governments would pick some items, say the cocoa, the sesame seeds, and the rest of it. What are these items that get government support as regards expenditure?
Yes, the major products of exports that Nigeria has, when it talks about cocoa, we talk about shrimps, we talk about fishery products, we talk about even poultry products, we talk about sesame seed and all the likes. Those that especially are exported now in Nigeria in the raw form. You also bring to notice even sugar production in Nigeria. Nigeria is one of the highest producers of growers of sugar cane, and yet we still import a lot of sugar, even when we have the sugar factories that are run even by the private sector and both the government. So you discover that if we put more attention into cultivation of sugar cane, for example, and there are enough machineries in place to ensure that these products are they are converted, we will not at the long run we will stop importing sugar into the country, because we will achieve self-sustainability, and we will also retain the dollars, the foreign currency we are using to import these products into the country. So the government need to beam a searchlight of all these crops that are rich in exports, that are needed in the international community, both in crude form and refined form, and make sure that there is an agricultural policy on each of them, and the government jumpstarts the policy by backing it up with enough funding and research, so that by the time the foreign investors are coming, they are coming to back up what government has already started, and Nigeria will be good for it. Nigeria has an economy that can do so well, that can actually earn its name as the largest economy in Africa, not only by GDP but by actual production. So this new government needs to look at these critical areas to ensure that agriculture is in the front burner, because a lot is attached to agriculture. Employment is attached to agriculture, entrepreneurship is attached to agriculture, increasing our GDP is attached to agriculture, food sustainability is attached to agriculture. So agriculture is supposed and is expected to play a critical role.
Even poverty alleviation.
Even poverty alleviation, yes, is attached to agriculture.
Okay, sir. Tell us. We know that the federal government, we know that this present administration is yet to really kick off and see activities being seen physically.
Yes.
Physically, but then the last administration was did. One or two aside policy, making and the rest of it, were able to visit some rice mills and the rest of it.
Yeah.
In all of this, how does it translate to a small farmer, a peasant farmer?
Actually, the government intervention in rice production in the previous administration, to a large extent, did not permeate or did not translate to cheaper cost or of rice in the country, and there are so many reasons for that. One, the approach of the government to farmers in this regard also has issues, because some farmers that are in the rice sector were sidelined. Two, some people that got government grants did not use it as it should. Yes, one way or the other, we saw rice pyramid in Abuja at a point, but yet the price of rice did not go down. We also saw collaborations between state governments, like the Lagos State Government and Kebbi State Government, in buying paddy rice from Kebbi State and producing lake rice in Lagos. But even at that, it has not also reduced the cost of rice. So what we can deduce from this government intervention in the last administration is that the publicity was very high, but the actual production was not what it was. And just like the law of demand and supply, if there is no enough demand, supply is going to suffer. If there is scarcity, there is no way you can bring down the price of a product. So, and that is why what we have in Nigeria, even as the federal government then banned the importation of rice, we could not achieve self-sustainability in rice production, and we could not bring it to the market enough. The other aspect is the grade of the products that we are bringing to the market. Some expert has told us then that the refining process of the kind of rice that will bring is imported into this country, like Thai rice and the rest, are capital intensive, and there should be a big network to be able to accommodate it, which we do not have in Nigeria. Apart from state-to-state collaborations, the private sector have not really keyed into rice revolution in Nigeria. And you know that rice in Nigeria is a staple food that is the most preferred all over the state and the region. So even at the fact that the government intervened, the intervention was not deep enough to cause a change in the cost and the availability of the product. So I believe that if this new government want to learn from the mistakes of the past administration, the policies needs to be tailored in a different way to ensure that all the farmers and the value chain are assisted to ensure that not only did they get the loans, but they have adequate research information to be able to improve. And also, when these paddies, the rice are grown, the private sector needs also to be encouraged to bring high quality machinery to be able to give us fine grains that can compete with even the Thai rice and the other ones that are coming into the country. And if we have enough supply, then there will be reduction in the cost of the rice, and two, there will also be no need for importation when the country is already flooded with the product. So I believe that this new government will beam its searchlight on rice production, cocoa, and the other rich crops.
Okay, yes, so the federal government needs to beam its searchlight in ensuring that its expenditure actually translates to what actually is meant to achieve the particular money that has been earmarked for this product. On that note, to take a quick break, when we return, the program continues. Stay tuned. It's still the program Agric Economy, and we'll be looking at government expenditure vis-a-vis its translation into real-term, essence of it. I'm speaking with our guest, Mr. Agric, who has been taking us down, memory lane, and has spoken to us on what the expenditure is, how it has translated over the years, and now we'll be taking a look at the allocation for the year 2022-2023. According to the budget, we have 228.4 billion naira allocated to the agricultural sector, which account for 1.05% of the total budget of 21.83 trillion naira. We're talking about having the sector all changed and the rest of it, and we have less than 2% in the budget. What magic will this administration do?
Yes, this present administration has an opportunity to change the narrative. Looking at the 2023 budget, which was not caught by this administration, there are two things that can be done. There could be a supplementary budget by this administration to the National Assembly to jack up the allocations to agriculture, or there should be extra budgetary spendings to intervene in the agricultural sector. Just like I said earlier, the allocation to agriculture has been fluctuating over the past 20 years, and that is why we have seen that there has been little improvement in the agricultural sector, because that sector is a sector that needs adequate funding for its results to be able to show. And looking at the poor allocation, even for 2023, it shows that a little will definitely be achieved. So if this new government is beaming its searchlight on agricultural improvement and food sustainability, then something needs to be done to improve budgetary allocations to agriculture.
Because like here, I can see here the poor budgetary allocation is it cannot be. In fact, it's less than even 2%. This is just like 1%, and then you see, we want so much. We're talking about poverty alleviation. We're talking about job creativity. We're talking about our youth being entrepreneurs and the rest of it. And you still want them to look towards agriculture, making it viable and the rest of it. What can be done?
One thing that
on the part, you've said that the administration should look into having a supplementary budget and the rest of it. On the part of farmers, what can they do?
The farmers over the years have been struggling to ensure that they go about their normal planting. They try as much as possible to get alternative source of funding, because we know that funding is not easy to come by even in commercial banks. They try as much as possible to engage government agencies that are in charge of Agric to see what they can get, and they have been trying their best. But what I feel this government needs to do, because there is a lot of disservice to the Agric sector when there are no amenities, when there are no infrastructures, where there are no government programs to encourage smallholder farmers and even the large-scale farmers as well. So the farmers need to continue to put a strong foot forward. These new ministers that have come on board, the farmers need to engage them to be able to talk to them on what this new government have in stock for them. It is when they know what the government have in stock for them that they will know how to go about getting it. So I believe that the farmers have waited patiently for ministers to come in. I believe there should be stakeholders engagement to be able to allow these ministers to tell the farmers the key areas of government intervention in farming, tools implementation, policy direction and the rest. So I believe that it is after these farmers across the country engage the new Ministry of Agriculture headed by the two ministers, the Minister of State and the Minister itself, that they will be able to have a policy direction, and they will be able to know the part they are expected to play in this new Agric revolution.
Okay, yes, on that, we don't have time on our side. Thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you for having me.
You've heard it, there's need for Agric stakeholders, farmers, investors to to meet with the just assumed office ministers of agriculture in ensuring that they have a pathway, they have an informed decision as to how the sector needs to be driven. On that note, wrapped up on the program for this week. Join us again, same time, same station next week. I am Khadija Uluwatoyin, and saying bye for now.